Welcome to Whole and Unleashed, a podcast about coming home to ourselves, featuring conversations with special guests on topics related, but not limited to burnout, mindset, fulfillment, transitions, wellness, and so much more. I am your host, Jessica Locke, a Strala yoga guide and holistic wellness coach. And this podcast is not about telling you what to do. I believe we all have the answers we need within. This podcast is here to inspire you, help you find clarity, and maybe give you an extra nudge towards living wholeheartedly. And of course, we'll be sharing tools and strategies from our guests to embrace your inner wisdom and live unleashed. Ready to dive in? Today's special guest is a social media expert. Her name is Mallory Hank Johnson, also known as MJ. MJ talks about her relationship with social media, how it helped her connect and find her community during a very difficult time in her life, such as coping with infertility struggles, and how that helped her connect to herself eventually, leading her to transition from a great but unsatisfying 9-to-5 job to full-time entrepreneurship doing what she loves. MJ is a proud curly-haired millennial mother and military wife who operates the lifestyle brand Life by MJ. As an influencer and blogger, MJ has completed over 100 brand collaborations with notable brands such as Coca-Cola, Costco, and Oreo, all while sharing her musings on motherhood, fashion, beauty, and other lifestyle topics. MJ is also passionate about social media and helping others achieve their dreams. On her podcast, A Life by You, she shares how to harness the power of social media to create a life on your own terms. MJ has also extended her support with coaching, e-course programs, as well as a Dump for You social media services, all developed and intended to be sustainable social media strategy solutions to help create impactful content on your own terms. In today's episode, Mallory shares what led her to walk away from her 6-figure job in pursuit of something more aligned, how that journey was for her, from her struggles to breakthroughs, and then we also talk about what happens after you make the leap. We often hear about people quitting their jobs, and it's all amazing, but sometimes things can get worse before they get better. How do you regulate your nervous system after such a big change? Our bodies? Well, they reacted, and we share a little bit about our experience and what we needed to do to allow ourselves to recalibrate. We also talk about how we often override our inner knowing based on a false sense of security. I mean, I'm pretty sure we've all done that before. And Mallory shares how you can leverage social media to your advantage with practical tips to get started, and the importance of choosing a platform that's also fun for you. Come join our chat. Hi, Mallory. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
I'm awesome. Thank you so much for just having me, Jessica, and sharing your platform and allowing me just to chat with you today. It's awesome to be able to do this. I adore you, so I'm excited.
Likewise. So I've met Mallory almost like a year ago, and I've been kind of just watching her. We were in a program together in a very similar journey where we were kind of transitioning and figuring out what the next steps are. So before we get super deep, Mallory, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience? I know you also go by MJ, and I believe there's a story behind it. So if you want to share that too, please.
Absolutely. I'll give you guys like the 1,000-foot level Cliff Notes version, if that makes sense. But my name is Mallory Hank Johnson, but on the internet, I'm known as MJ because Mallory Hank Johnson is way too long for the internet. And I was one of those women who hyphenated their names because I loved my last name. But I also love my husband, and I love that I was able to share in that, but it made it really complicated, just to be honest with you guys, in hindsight. But to kind of talk about my own journey and how I got started. in working in social media and now having an online business. Um, I was a project manager for a number of years. I've worn lots of hats over the years, but the last place I landed in corporate America, I was a project manager certified, and really happy at my job for a very long time. However, I always felt this inkling of like, there's something more, there's something else that I'm meant to be doing. Simultaneously, I started, my husband and I were attempting to get pregnant and have a child. And we started having fertility issue. We embarked on an infertility journey without even knowing it. And that was very challenging, super challenging. And I needed an outlet. I felt like there was nothing I could control. Like my body wasn't doing the things it was quote unquote supposed to do as a woman. So I felt like I needed to control something. And so I started expressing myself on social media, and I bought a camera, I got a DSLR, and it was the biggest investment I made into myself since college and buying a house. And at the time it was like around $700-800 because I was like, I gotta get a good lens and all this other stuff. But it really was profound and changed everything for me, buying this camera and starting to take pictures of myself and just expressing myself visually and then verbally, launching my blog, Life by MJ. And over time, I started connecting with this incredible community as I shared my infertility journey. And I mean, I felt so seen and I felt so nurtured and loved by like-minded individuals. Fast forward, I started building a following really quickly. Actually, it was by surprise. And I really started taking this internet social media thing seriously. And I started pitching myself to brands. And within a year after buying that camera and launching my blog, I had made $10,000. Like, so that $700-800 investment was more than paid for. And I was like, something is here, like something's happening. Like, whoa, I just made like an extra 10 grand. Like, I wasn't even trying. I mean, I was trying. But I wasn't very intentional. If I'm being honest, there were some things there starting to peak, but I honestly didn't know exactly what I was doing. And I had my daughter, and that was amazing, and that really shifted things for me. Like, okay, that really made me start taking inventory in terms of my role as a project manager, and then also working in social media, like which direction did I, really want to go in. So I decided I really wanted to see where this social media online business could go. And I started coaching people, started charging dirt cheap to coach people on how I got to where I was at, working with brands. Didn't know what the hell I was doing. My first e-course launch, it wasn't a bomb, but it did not do all the grand and overture, like, oh my God, I'm making 10, 5 figures or 6 figures from this launch. It was like, oh, like, I got to figure this out. Like, this isn't going as perfectly as I thought it was going to be, but something was still there for me. Like, I knew this was a journey I needed to embark on because I knew there was something more for me. As a woman of color, I really wanted to build generational wealth for my family. And while working with brands was really exciting and fun, I worked with Coca-Cola, Oreo, Costco, Target, like the names just kept coming in. It was just, I was attracting this. I felt compelled to serve people like me. It was great to serve these big brands, but I really wanted to serve people like myself, like who didn't have a clue what the hell they were doing. Long story short, now, fast forward, I've now since left my job. I've built some pretty exciting programs that I absolutely love. Have some other great things in the pipeline that I'm excited to do. But had I not put myself out there and just kind of started dipping my toe and playing and experimenting and failing, and so in a lot of different ways, I wouldn't be here now doing this 100%. And while I talk so much about social media and Instagram and things like that, I really, going back to that generational wealth piece, I really want to help others claim that, whether that's through, using social media as a tool or just them finding their voice as a tool to get there, if that makes sense. Because I really feel we could help women of color, everyone succeeds. Like women of color are the lowest paid and, we make the lowest in wages. And so if we can uplift the lowest, everyone's just going to keep going up, So, um, that's the place where I am right now. I still work with brands. I love working with brands. It's something I love, that creative. I have a marketing degree, so I love that piece of it. But I also love coaching and mentoring. I really feel like it's more of a mentorship that I have with my clients. But that's where I am now, and it's still being written,
Wow.
still figuring it out as well. But I love where I'm at, to be honest.
I am so proud of where you're at. I can't even say proud, but like just seeing your growth, because I know how much courage it took to fully leave from the 9 to 5. And I also wanted to point out how you had an inkling and then you were facing a challenge. And that challenge, as a way to kind of self-soothe and like process that challenge, it opened the doors for you to find something kind of like a higher purpose. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but it kind of opened more doors.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. And that's what I'm finding. I tell people, I was like, I had no idea entrepreneurship would be a journey of self-awareness. Like there's so many things that just continue to evolve and be unlocked and shifted. And I'm like, I went into this originally to make money. I had no idea. Yeah. I had no idea that this was going to be a soul journey. And honestly, that's been so much more fulfilling than the money piece. Like I feel that money is an energy. I mean, my money mindset I'm still working on so much. But I feel like I have a healthier relationship with money, and that if I continue to act from a place of value and serving and community, the money will come, And certainly there's those moments where that scarcity sets in, like, I need to make some money, you know what I mean? But at the same time, like there's still this piece of me where it's just like, okay, no, you can do this, you can create it, you can it's this level, it's a different level of confidence that you can stand on your own 2 feet and not only help yourself, but simultaneously be able to help others while doing it. Like it's not just and to no knock against anyone still in corporate America. I had a good job. It was actually probably one of the best companies to work for. They were amazing. They asked me to stay 3 times. Like I quit 3 times and they kept denying they kept denying my resignation letter. So it was it was very gratifying. Don't get me wrong. Like my ego was stroked. But they also told me when I finally told them, like, guys, no, I am leaving. They were like, we admire that you have the courage to lean into what you feel called to do, And it's now only been a few months. I've only been, self-employed now since May. We're recording this. I don't know when this will air, in August. So it's been a few months. And granted, it's not been crystal clear the entire time. But I love it here and I have no desire to go back. And if anything, I look forward to employing. I have a team of people who help me now, which I'm so grateful for, but I look forward to employing even more individuals and creating a balanced, easeful work environment that other women and mothers and other individuals, no matter what you identify with, feel comfortable in, because I think that's so important. You spend most of your time working. So I think it's important you're working in something that fulfills you. And that could be at a job. Again, I don't knock anyone that has a 9 to 5. There's great things about that sometimes. Yes. But I also think and wholeheartedly believe that entrepreneurship could also be a invitation to do a lot on your own terms, and can open up. It's not for everyone, but it's definitely for a lot of individuals who are willing to go there and step out and try.
Yeah, and it's so inspiring to see, because like, thank you for bringing up the fact that the job was good, because sometimes we think when we're at a turning point, things have to
Mm.
be terrible. You have to be
Right.
sick all the time or dreading. You're like, no, things were great, but I wanted to do something else. And that's enough to walk
Mhm.
away from something that's safe and steady. Doesn't mean it's not scary. Giving yourself permission to embrace that dream and that inkling.
Girl, it's so funny you say that because at one point in time I felt so ungrateful. You know what I mean? We just gone through this whole pandemic. We're still in it in so many ways. But in the midst of it, I felt so ungrateful. Like, how dare I want to do something else when there's people who are like, can I get a paycheck? Like, I'm trying to pay my rent. I'm trying to put food on the table. So here I am, like, but I want to walk away from all of this security, and
Yes.
security is a very loose word, I say, because I was also furloughed at my job. That was like the worst thing they could have done, actually, because I was furloughed last year, um, for about 2 months, a little bit over 2 months. And that just unlocked so much for me. Like that was such a huge pivotal turning point where if I don't know if they had not done that, if I would have if I would not have felt compelled to leave, if that makes sense. Like there was already an inkling there, like, oh, there's got to be something more. And I think more for me was like, oh, maybe I'll try to get promoted, which I actually ended up doing.
Right.
Maybe I'll get a different role, which I did within that period of time as I
Yeah.
was trying to figure out things. But I don't think I would have been able to step fully into that more had I not been removed from that environment, that quote unquote safety
Yes.
net, that comfortable. And when I got furloughed, I cried. Like I was just like, oh my God, I'm not worthy. Um, obviously I wasn't valued enough to be able, to be asked to stay, and
Hmm.
millions of people around the world were being furloughed at this time.
Yeah.
And when they called me to go back to work, I was crying my eyes out because I was like, I don't want to go back. Oh my God, no. Like it was agonizing to go back. So, and I almost forgot that happened. I was like, oh my God. Like I remember crying when they furloughed me. Like I just felt
Yeah.
devastated. My ego was shot. And then I was devastated. They called me to go
And then
back.
go back. Sometimes you just need to take a step back because when you're in
Yes.
it, you don't realize.
No.
I think we cope when we're in situations and we don't realize, I won't say bad, but you don't realize how you wanted something different until you're out of it. And you're like, yeah, I don't want
Right.
that anymore.
No, I absolutely agree with you. And I think needing to be removed from, this corporate, in so many ways, as a woman of color, I had set out to do, I had succeeded to what I wanted to do, if that makes sense. I went to college. I got the corporate job. I moved up. I'm now making six figures. Like I'm doing pretty good. Like this isn't, like I said, it was not a bad situation. They gave me full autonomy to run my projects the way I want to run it. Like as long as it was getting done, like no one was bothering me. But
Yeah.
inside, like I just still felt so unfulfilled. Like I'm like, okay, I can do this, but this doesn't um what's the word? It wasn't scaring me. That's one thing that I'm noticing is like if something scares me, then I probably need to
Hmm.
run towards that. So I was no longer scared about my job. I was very comfortable. There were things that were annoying. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
And there's things annoying in entrepreneurship too. I don't want to make it all roses and like it's amazing. There's moments where it's like, and I don't know if I can curse, but holy shit, what am I
Yeah, you
doing?
can.
Like,
Yeah.
but but yeah, I wasn't being challenged anymore. It was just like, no, you're in this box, this container, this is the role. Don't go beyond here unless it's going to help the bottom line. Like, we don't need all
Right.
that. Just stay right here. And, you know, I just needed, like I said, I needed something more. And again, there's places where you can get that. Um,
Yeah.
there's companies that will provide that for you. It all just
Yeah.
depends. But I wasn't able to get that with where I was at because of the state of the business and the industry. Again, so it wasn't a knock. And like I said, the worst thing they could have did was furlough me because once I was
Right.
free and able to just, all I had to think about was my business and my family. Like you
Yeah.
said, was removed from that. It was just like, I finally felt like I could stretch a bit. Like I felt my
Yes.
wings were starting to come out. Like I felt like I was blossoming and my mind was just like in a whole different place. And so the remaining of that year, when you and I met in the mastermind we were in together, it was just like this constant, like I felt like I was trying to get out of that damn box again. Like I
Yeah.
finally had these damn wings and they put me, made me put them back in. And it was just like, no, I need to get the fuck out of here. Like I need to get out. And when I finally put in my notice, which it took me forever to do, it was so overdue. When I finally did, like it was freeing, and that temptation to come back totally was there. Like
Oh yeah.
like I said, they asked me to, to stay. They denied. They were like, we're not going to accept your resignation. I'm
What?
like, is that a thing?
Excuse me?
Never heard of that. Like, huh? And they did that 3 times. So
It also
literally
makes you
down.
it
Yeah,
also makes you double guess yourself. Like,
for
am I doing
sure.
the right thing?
Yeah,
You
like
know?
it did. And I'm talking to my husband, and he has a very much, I'm so thankful because he's so supportive, and he's trusts me full heartedly to just go. And so, um, granted, this was still a safety net, for our family. We're living a certain type of way, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
because of this. So he's just like, well, wait, maybe you should look into this. And he's not meaning it from a bad place. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. But he's just like, maybe we could make this work. And I'm like, no, I have to go. Like every inch of me, my skin, my gut, everything is just like, no, get the fuck out of here. You have to leave. You have to leave.
Yeah.
So it's just funny how, things transpire. And then when I left, and I'm still kind of reconciling this. I was still in this like corporate hustle mode of like, I gotta just go, go, go. And at the same
Yeah.
time, I was still I'm operating my business this entire time. I'm now employing, I had for 3 freelancers that I was paying on a continual basis when I left. So I just felt like I gotta keep, let's launch, let's go, let's go. And I crashed. Like once I removed that, I literally crashed. And I don't want to use the word depression, but I was at a very low. Maybe I was depressed. I didn't. I needed to seek therapy. I probably should have, but I became very cognizant of like in reflection now over the past few months. I just crashed, and I think it was just because I was so used to like doing all the things, and my body was just like, no, like you just need to stop. Like,
Yeah.
and I started beating myself up like all the things I had planned as like the next thing to do now that I was
Yes.
in this fully, I was like, I don't think I want to do any of that. It's like, because
Yeah.
I created it from this mindset, from this corporate hustle that even though it was still mine, I was still creating it
Yeah.
from this lens of like, this is what success looks like this is how you
Mm.
need to run your business, this is what you need to do. And I'm still shaking that, and I know that's going to take years to shed, probably like I'll probably revert, but I'm in this space of trying to give myself some grace navigating these uncharted waters, and reckon, and still tapping into like, you have the power to decide what this may be,
Yeah.
whether that be day to day, week to week, month to month. Sometimes that's just what it is.
Yeah,
And
that's exactly what it is.
that's exactly what it is. So um it's been it's been amazing to be in a place to fully express and experiment right now. And um knowing that I can land however I need to land. You know what I mean? And so much is still unwritten, but I think that's still like the beauty of all of it. Like it makes it somewhat like romantic in a sense. You know what I mean? Like, so everyone wants like this
Yeah.
fairy tale ending, but you know, and maybe my fairy tale ending was that I left my job. Woo! But like we all don't see what like happens after. Like, Cinderella got the prince, but then
But then, did you even know each other? They need to get to know each other part. And
right.
honestly,
Yeah.
I love the fact you brought it up because it was exactly the same for me. I quit my career and I had the same mindset that was burning me
Really?
out into my own business because I think when I jumped, it felt so liberating, but then there were all those
Mm,
fears that were driving my decision.
for
I
sure.
have to make the same amount of money as before. I have to be successful. And every time I would encounter someone who knew me in my like previous life, I felt like I had to come up with like, this is what I'm doing, like almost like to prove my worth to them.
Yes, girl. Yes. I'm
There
right
was
there with you.
so many stories I had to kind of let go.
Are you ready to create space for ease and alignment? I've created a free starter guide to help you go from frazzle to focus. It's a guide for the overwhelmed go-getter who's eager to find more ease, clarity, and alignment in their lives, so you can quiet the noise and strengthen your connection within. After all, we can't align what we don't know is misaligned. Simply grab your free copy at wholeandunleashed.com/guide.
I'm
There
right
was
there with
so
you.
many stories I had to kind of let go, and it's been 4 years, Valerie, for me, and I'm still realizing, am I pushing right now because I think I
Mm,
should, or am I
mm,
honoring how I'm doing? And it's a dance.
mm.
Some
Ooh,
days,
ooh.
so, yeah, some
I
days is
love that.
easier to follow. Other days is like I want to do it. I really want to do it.
Hmm. No, and I think that, see, and this is the stuff like no one told me with entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
now people are telling me, they're like, oh no, when you leave, just wait. Like they're like, you're gonna feel so great. And I did. I felt really great and I still do. But like you said, some
Yeah.
days it's just like, am I operating from a place of fear, or this is like not what I am anymore? Does that make sense? Like am I shedding this, or is it because, or am I running away from this because I'm fearing of like being fully in it, and what that could be, you know what I mean? The potential of what it could be. And so I've been learning different things to check myself. Um, I mean, I think a big part of it is just giving myself grace and room to experiment, but then also just to, I know you and I have had discussions about human design, and I know you're diving like fully into it, which I love. And that's been so helpful for me, in terms of just understanding myself and where a lot of my stories come from.
Mhm.
I'm a manifester, a splenic manifester, and trusting my instincts has been very, learning to trust myself again has been difficult, because again, in corporate America, and even as growing up, it's just you're told these stories like this is what you need to do to be
Yes.
successful. And I used to trust myself so much. And so it's like, where did I lose that? And how do I reconnect to that again? And so
Oh,
I'm
yes.
trying to connect to that again. Like, no, it's already in you. So but it's just like, you know, is it, where is this coming from? Is this coming from that corporate lens, these stories that we've told ourselves? Or is this coming, like, is this the real Mallory? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
is this true?
Yes, yes. Oh gosh. So like in human design, a splenic projector,
Ah.
splenic splenic. So I also doubt myself. Like I override
Mm-hmm.
my intuition all the
Mm-hmm.
time. And I've always
Mm-hmm.
trusted myself, but for big life decisions, even though I
Mm,
know it's right for me,
mm-hmm.
I felt like I had to explain it to others. And that's when I doubt myself. And that's when I like,
Oh.
override my reasoning. I'm like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I should do this. And I was like, oh, but should I though? What are the pros? What are the cons? Like, is there any like ROI guarantee? Make
Yes.
sure that you're investing in this program. And it's like such a huge mindset transformation
Mm,
into, like you said, entrepreneurship is a journey, but like no one told us what the journey is about because it's so different,
it
but it's kind
is.
of
You're
like
right.
going inwards and like pulling all the weeds out. And there are so many
Yes,
of them.
girl. So many of them. So many of them. And some of them have like pretty flowers, and it's like you get distracted by them.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Like, is
Yes.
this pretty?
I love that analogy.
Maybe we should keep this one. And meanwhile, it's like
this,
sucking you dry. And
this gives me benefits. So, I mean, the word
yeah.
sounds good.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's like I said, I never realized it was going to be this journey of self-awareness and spirituality, but that's exactly what it's become. It's like,
Yeah.
who am I? What happened? But I love, like I said, I love it here. And I'm, I think it was special and such an honor and a privilege to be able to be in, be able to make money while figuring myself out. Like I'm like,
Yes.
how did I get so lucky? Be able to do these things. And I just want that for everyone else. Like I hope, life is this huge journey. And I think so many of us again are told, to fit in these boxes and these stories that we tell ourselves and these roles that we're assigned, and shedding yourself of all of that is just it's work, like, and then for me, I feel it's just really necessary for me to go through this type of work. I call it heart work. And I took that from a
Oh.
client of mine. I absolutely love her, but I feel like it's heart work, from the heart, and it's hard work. But I feel like
Yeah.
it's so necessary, especially because of my daughter, because I look at her, she's like the most confident person I know. And I love that. And I'm like, I don't want her to lose that. Like, I feel like that's innately who she is. And since her birth, I've been told she has such a sense of self. Like the doctors told us that. I mean, it was just really weird. And I'm just like, I don't want to lose that. I want to continue to nurture that. And I feel like the best way, for at least for me, is on my role. My husband has a very strong sense of self. I actually admire that. But he's also going through, we're all changing. But I feel the best way for me to help her is to help myself. You know what I mean? Like I've got to go in deep on myself. So then when I am parenting, when I am having a moment, um, I'm not projecting onto her, or, and not even noticing it. Like I'll give you an example, something that I've shared with a few others. I hormonally, I started breaking out because of stress and just all the things after I left my job. And actually, it was around the time when I put my notice in. And so it's just like reconciling, like, is this the best decision? You know what I mean? Am I going the right direction? So I started breaking out, and I started picking at my face. It just, excuse me, insecure teenage tendencies just like came back. And here I am, I'm 36. So I'm in the mirror, like picking my pimples. Sorry if that sounds gross to anybody. And my daughter's watching me do this. Lucky is watching me do this. And she's like, Mama, you hurt yourself? You hurt? And I'm like, no, I got something on my face. She's like, oh, I have something on my face too. And I'm like, holy shit. Like I'm
She's
teaching
watching
her.
you.
See me pick myself apart over like something that's just happening, obviously internally it's manifesting physically. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm literally imprinting in her mind right now that like, if you have a pimple, you got to pick it, and something's wrong, you're hurt. So you got to fix it. And it's just like, okay, we got to go about this a different way, because I don't want her to feel insecure, because she obviously can see me in an insecure moment. Like it was just like this eye-opening experience. Like she's constantly watching and just like receiving. Like I'm not even doing anything direct. She's just learning how to operate and navigate herself through me. And it's just like, oh my gosh, this is a huge responsibility.
No pressure. You should do a segment like life lessons with Lucky.
Right? Oh my God, I should totally do that.
I really love how you talk about like the super vulnerable and the scary parts, because we think, hey, we're finally following our dreams and things are rainbows and butterflies. No, there is an ugly part. You're also shedding the parts of yourself that you tried to fit, or maybe you had to fit in that period, and now it's time to kind of become something else, and it gets really, really scary. And a thing that you also mentioned, that's like, you wanted to do all those things, and that was where I was as well. I wanted to do and accomplish that. I didn't even let my body kind of calibrate with me, because we are changing, right? Not just your mind, your body is changing with you. But if you don't give it time to process, then it ain't happening.
No, and your body will slow you down. Your body will. I read a book recently. I have to. I keep mentioning this book. Well, I listened to it. I listen to audiobooks now because as a mom, it's hard to sit down. But I'm working on that, sitting down and reading a book. But Oprah has this book about. It's like the path to purpose or something to that. I'll have to get you the right name. And it has snippets from her Super Soul Sundays. One of the chapters is called about learning to get to your purpose or living in your purpose is called The Whispers. And it talks about how our body whispers to us, when we're in alignment or when we're not aligned. And so I'm so used to just like being like frazzled, but exactly what you mentioned, coming out, shedding that corporate role and now being fully in entrepreneurship, I did not allow my body to recalibrate. Like, hold on, wait a second. Like, we're in a new place. Let's just kind of ease into this. I was like, let's go. Come on. And I think that manifested in so many different ways. Like at one point, during this month actually, and it's gone now, but I had this, and I have thyroid issues as well. I have hyperthyroidism. So I had this insane rash just show up on my arms. And I'm like, what is this? And I was like, body whispering to me.
Body's shouting.
Yes, it's shouting at this point, like, oh, you thought acne was bad. Just wait, we're gonna make your arms itch. And so I had like these patches of scales all of my arms, girl. I still have like a little few remnants I can see. And it started really light, like very small, like a little dot. And it just showed up. And I'm like, I didn't change anything. Like, I'm not doing anything different. Took account of my food, took account of the detergent or whatever, literally like what's different. And it just kept growing. Like it started up on my upper arms and it just started growing. And I was like, I need to I just need to slow down. And it really stopped me in my tracks. And I know that doesn't happen for everyone. Like I in a lot of ways, maybe
it
unfortunate.
Happened to me. It
really?
happened to me like right before the mastermind last year, and I had quit my job for 3 years, and I was still not doing the things I wanted to do because I was terrified. I didn't think I was enough. And then I've never had like eczema before, like that I was aware of. And then my hands, it started small, and then it just blew, and it was covered, like my entire hands. I was kind of like basically disabled. I couldn't grab anything. My husband had to wash my hair. It was like completely broken. And then I'm like, I think my body is trying to tell me something. I think I've been in denial because I kept saying, oh, well, I'm freelancing. I like design. I'm making good money. Maybe it's okay. I get to travel. And then, the pandemic hit and everything. And it's almost like, okay, confront what you haven't been confronting because you were believing the stories that you're trying to coach people out of it, but you were stuck in them yourself.
Wow. Damn. Well, first of all, thank you for sharing that because I felt so alone. I'm like, my husband's just like, you need to go to the doctor. And right now with COVID, trying to get to the doctor is so hard. And I called my dermatologist. They're like, we can't see you for 2 months. I'm like, 2 months? Like, I might have to deal with this for 2 months. I call a teledoc and he's like, I don't know. I'm going to send you the steroid cream. Maybe that will help. And I do have an allergist. I have high allergies, but it wasn't all over my body. So I knew it wasn't an allergic reaction to anything. It was just like, why is it only on my arms? And it started spreading my hands, kind of got a little bit on my chest. But anyways, he was like, oh, that's your thyroid. Your thyroid's all out of whack. Like and he knew exactly. He was like, that's your thyroid. Like you have hyperthyroidism. Your thyroid's trying to tell you something right now. And he knew how I just become an entrepreneur. I mean, he's a great doctor. And he was just like, oh, well, how are you doing? You're stressed, aren't you? That's what that all is. That's what all is. And once I recognized it, I know, once I recognized it, it started going away. And I was so worried. I was just like, how, what am I going to do if this doesn't go away? Like, or if I got to wait 2 months and deal with this and it's just itching, it'll wake me up in the middle of the night. But thank you for sharing that because I thought I was just the crazy person, but I'm like, no, this has to be my body's trying to tell me something. It's telling, you need to, like you said, confront the things that you've been, you know, depressing into your body, regressing in so many ways, and you need to confront them. Um, and I'm working on that because I'm like, I don't want to do that again. Like, I do not want those things. No thanks. I live in Las Vegas. It's hot, and wearing sleeves is not
so
fun.
It's gonna get even worse. Yeah,
and it would rub. So I was like, and people would see it. Like, if I was on a Zoom call, or I'm like, people are just gonna have to see it. So now it's something I have to talk about. Anyways.
Yeah, I totally get you, and it becomes such a self-conscious thing. Like, for me, it was such a also like a mental struggle.
Yes.
I'm in quotation, I was doing everything right. Like, what the hell do you want from me? Like, why right now? But then it was also for me when I was able to like understand why.
Yeah.
And be okay. It took me almost a year to recover. I still had little things. I had to cut off like all kinds of food, detergents, and all that just to help my body heal. Even though they weren't the cause of it, I had to realize my body exactly, and that my body needed to heal. So I think the mastermind has been so transformative mindset wise, and just understanding like, yeah, your business is yours. What is important for you right now? Is it making 5 figures or your health at this point?
Right? Oh my gosh. Absolutely. I absolutely agree. And we get so caught up again in those markers of what we think success is. You know what I mean? Like, for me, I was like, I need to make 7 figures. That's what I need to do. And it's just like, but why? Like, why do I need to make 7? Like, what are you gonna do when you make those 7 figures? Like, what
I'm gonna boast about it.
Right? Yeah. Like, where is this coming from? And I realized I made goals. Like I said, I made goals and benchmarks, programs, all types of things, content off of this lens of like, this is the success that I want. But really, none of it was in alignment. None of it was genuine. Let's just be honest. I thought it was, but it was all under the guise of this, again, in my opinion, corporate hustle mentality. Like, this is what success looks like, and success is different for everyone. You know what I mean? Like, some people are happy, at a 5-figure mark or whatever. And if that provides you peace and that gives you the things you want in life and the freedom in your life, that's great. Like, maybe that's all you need, and that's okay. you might not need all that.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Because I think we start striving for things, and like, you're in social media. So, some advice on how to deal with the comparison. And also, like, it could be such a wonderful source of inspiration, but then it's also so easy to get sucked in. And I've talked to so many people who are really struggling. Like, for you, how has that relationship been? Because I know it started as a means to connect for you.
Absolutely. And it still is. Every time I show up, every time I post something, I always think, what's in it for them? Like, I always create from a place of fun and enjoyment. And like, I feel excited with whatever content I create, whether it's a quote or a video or whatever it is. I feel excited when I create that, but I always have to think, and it's like it's a check or I can't get the words out, but I check myself and I say, is this going to provide my audience value today? That's, is this performative? Is this just self-serving? And if it doesn't fit, how it provides value for them, I'm not going to post it. Like, erase, come back to it, revisit it, just get rid of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in terms of that comparison piece, it's something my clients feel very often. I serve a lot of entrepreneurs. I'm so thankful that they trust me to help them. But we spend so much time on that mindset piece. Like, breaking down that cycle of like, well, they're doing it this way, I need to do it this way. Or they're doing these numbers, I need to be doing these numbers. Or they're doing reels, so I got to do reels. Or they're doing this, so I got to do this. And it's just like, no, stop. Let's talk about the things that you want to do. Let's talk about the message you want to share. Let's talk about the services you want to provide and how that provides value to the audience you want to serve. Like, it always has to go back. I think it's so important that you show up doing what you love to do. So if you love being on camera and talking to people, stories is a great way to experiment, or doing reels or doing IGTVs. I'm speaking specifically about Instagram because I think what I found when people talk about social media, Instagram is like the default. And there's so many other platforms out there. And I actually suggest you show up on other platforms if you have the capacity and the tools to repurpose your content. That's a whole other conversation. But Instagram is a great place for inspiration, but it's a great place for comparison. And it's so easy to compare because it's just, you're getting hit with a plethora of messages, curated messages, you know what I mean? Intentionally curated messages. And I'm one of those people who do that. Like, I intentionally curate things to look and feel a certain way in hopes of a certain reaction. You know what I mean? And it's carefully crafted. And I'm very honest about that. I show up speaking and intentionally to someone that I want to connect with. And people have to just be aware of when they're consuming this content, like, hold on, like, this person is trying to attract me in a certain way. You know what I mean? Whether it be being entertained, there's comedians, so they're trying to get you to laugh, but we got to be careful, especially as entrepreneurs, in my opinion. And even influencers, because I help a lot of influencers who are like, well, she's doing it this way, or they're doing it this way, I need to be doing all these things. It's like, well, where is this coming from? Like, is it because you genuinely want to do these things and it's going to serve your community? Or is it because you feel like you should, the shoulds? Are you telling yourself this story that you have to do it this way? Like, and I've been there when I first started in this coaching world. That's exactly, I'm now recognizing I was taught such a masculine way of operating in social media. And I'm now rekindling into this feminine, flowy, sometimes, and not to knock being a woman, but masculine is, has the processes and the boundaries and the checkpoints and the milestones. And it's very, to me, aligned to that corporate mentality, which is just, for me, aligned to masculinity. And there's power in that. And it could be very helpful. But I feel like the femininity is fun, it's free, and it flows. You might not know what you're going to get and how it might land. And let's play. Like, that to me is what femininity is. And so I'm in a place of like, I need to probably be more in my femininity because I've mastered the masculine thing, but using the masculinity as like a strategy, not to say like F it, but using it as a means to strengthen my femininity, you know what I mean? And put those boundaries in place so it's not taken advantage of, that it, it lands where it needs to land, if that makes sense. I went down a whole tangent. I'm sorry, but I think people, to answer your original question, people just have to be very careful with what they consume and put some boundaries in place. One thing that I tell a lot of my clients is that, set time to do research and then set time to have fun. You know what I mean? So set a time when you're doing research, set a timer. Let it be 15 minutes, let it be a half hour. I think that's like a good mark. And you're doing intentional research on like who your audience might be, or maybe doing research on and there's nothing wrong with looking at other accounts. I actually suggest it. See how other people are serving, and then figure out how to put your own little twist on it. You know what I mean? And see what clicks for you. Like, ooh, I really want to do that. Not like, oh, well, he's doing that, I got to do that. No.
Yes.
Like, let's switch it up on, oh no, that looks so much fun. Like, I got to do my own version of that. You know what I mean? And it's not that you're copying. There's a book that I share with a lot of people called Still Like an Artist. And the premise behind is that there are no original ideas. Ideas flow through people. and people just put their own remixes on it. And I believe that. So, you're not stealing, you're not copy and pasting. Don't do that. Definitely don't do that. Put your own little thing on it, your little flavor, and have fun with it and experiment and see where it lands. And then if it works, double down, keep doing it. And then don't be afraid to keep experimenting, like to keep switching it up. There's nothing wrong with that. The biggest thing that I always tell people is you just got to show up. Like you've got to put yourself out there consistently. So people look forward to your content, because if they're not consuming your content, they're consuming someone else's, and out of sight, out of mind. So these platforms are a tool to build community. You know what I mean? And if you're always approaching it from that way, that it's a tool to build community, those two pieces, in my mind, I think you can maintain a healthier relationship. That doesn't mean it doesn't still creep up. But then you can check yourself, like, hold on, where is this really coming from? Like, am I coming from the intention as this is a tool to help my community, or is it, I should do this because someone else is doing it?
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for pointing out that it's all created, but with intention, because that doesn't mean it's fake.
No,
there's like this misunderstanding that social media is all created, so it's fake. But no, you can, like, everybody is always communicating, selling, attracting. And if you're doing something that you really believe in, why not use your voice in a platform that you enjoy? There's nothing wrong with it. Great, be intentional. So I love your message about, just be very intentional. How is it serving the people? What is my intention? Of course, I want sales call, or maybe I want people to sign up, but also, if it doesn't attract the right people, that's okay. And it's such a healthier way to view social media, as opposed to this giant that, keeps sucking and it's comparison, because just like a fork, it can help you, feed your food. You can also stab someone with it.
Yeah, you're right. I love that. I love that example, because you're absolutely right. It really, and then to me, that's where that tool piece comes in. Like, this is a marketing platform, you know what I mean? But to me, and I do lean on Instagram. I love Instagram. I have a love-hate relationship with it sometimes. I'm like, all right, algorithm. But there's still power in the algorithm. But I think Instagram has been so successful because it is a community, and I know they tend to, hop on, they copied stories from Snapchat. Let's just be honest. They copied reels from TikTok, but they continue to be successful because I think they always continue to nurture community. They allow conversations to happen and cross promotion, if that makes sense. Like, they, doing the lives allows you to collaborate. Having these, DM groups allows you to collaborate with individuals. The fact that you could write long captions, you can't do that on TikTok. You can't do that on Snap. So now people have like their own mini blogs on Instagram, and I'm not knocking them. You got to be careful because you don't own any of that. Instagram, you're using a free platform. It's free for a reason. Okay, you're giving it away. But no, it becomes this incredible tool, like I said, to connect and to test and to experiment and to play. And that has the ability to convert, to monetize. And so, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, it's not a bad thing to want to make money, from a community you want to foster from your content. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Marketing companies have been doing that forever for other, other service providers and products. I mean, Coca-Cola, Walmart, before all this stuff existed, billboards, which are still prevalent, but billboards, magazines, and all these things, they had ads, TV ads. Like, this is just again, a free way to tap into your audience, because they're there. There's billions of people on these platforms, and there is literally an audience for everyone, which isn't just another thing I love. And these social media platforms allow you to connect to them. Like, just type in anything you're interested in, Google it, YouTube it, TikTok, the hashtags, and you can find your people. I love that. That's amazing. It's a powerful thing.
It is. And like the having fun part, I can tell like
Mm.
every time I see Mallory's reels or posts, it is content, it's informational, but it's fun. Like that energy is contagious. Like you can tell when someone forced a post
Mm.
and you can tell when someone is
Yes,
doing it because they enjoy it. Like energy does not lie.
I agree. And I tell my clients that all the time. They're just like, I'm in this funk, blah, blah, blah. I haven't posted. And I'm like, don't. Like, I really genuinely, so many people think they're not creative. And I think that if you're creating content, you're creative. Like you may not be an artist. There's artists who are creating content, don't get me wrong. But if you're creating a content, I really feel like you're a creative person because there's energy behind that. You know what I mean? And if that energy is off, people can see it. And I've been there. I've done that. Posting for the sake of posting. And it's just like,
Same
no,
here.
don't do that. Because that energy from that place of scarcity or insecure or unsure or whatever it might be that you're going through at that moment, that ends up showing. Granted, I do think that there's still value in sharing that, depending on what your message is and what the connection you're trying to build. And in hindsight, that's a lot of where my content came from. And I just honestly, when I stopped talking about my infertility journey, I still talk about it here and there, but it's not intentional by any means anymore, or in the forefront. But I was coming from a place of like, I just want people to know they're not alone. You know what I mean? Like, I'm in this with you. Like, I'm going there with you. But then I also got in a place where it's just like, my life is very abundant and I'm happy. And so my content started shifting to show some of that. And people was just like, I miss you talking about your struggle with your breastfeeding journey or, infertility. I'm just like, I'm not in a place where that's taking all of me. And so this is the content you're going to get.
Yes.
And not being
Yes.
afraid of shifting, like, and also again, not being afraid to shift when you are in places of doubt. That still may help. And you could still post that without
Yeah.
being like, I'm just emotionally dumping on you. It could still be a place of inspiration, like, and community, if that makes sense.
Mm. Oh,
Yeah.
you hit on such a like a point where you become this persona and
Mm,
people are attaching and projecting their own stories to you.
mm,
And I
mm,
love it because I've seen people who have outgrown whatever they started sharing. Like there was this account I follow where this person was talking about chronic illness all the time, and then they started to
mm.
heal and move away from there, and then suddenly that narrative wasn't fitting the followers, so they were losing
Yeah.
followers. And they're like, but I can't talk about this forever. At least for me in this stage, I feel like I'm somewhere else. You're welcome to stay,
Yeah.
and if you want to tag along, it's fine. If you want to leave, that's perfectly fine. But I love that you talk about the narratives that people attach with you, and it almost becomes another box when it's never meant to be a box.
Oh my God, you're so right. Oh my gosh, you're exactly right. And I think that we just have to recognize as humans, our superpower is to change our minds. Like, that's really, in my opinion, what makes, our ability to love something and that shifts. You know what I mean? Our ability to be passionate about something you no longer are, like, and being
Yes.
cognizant of that shift, and we tear down people when they change their mind, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just like, that's our superpower. Like, animals, we still are animals, we still have instinct, but we have this
Yeah.
layer of rationalization and love, and why not exercise it?
Yeah, we're multi-dimensional. Like, we are
Yeah.
allowed to fit any roles. I thank you for bringing that up. What are
Yeah.
some myths that your clients have when they come to you to start using Instagram?
That they need a lot of followers to make money, that they need a lot of it's always like, followers is always like, I need this, I need people need to come, and it's just like, hold on, like, you probably already have a community and don't even realize it. Let's tap into what you've got. Let's take a look at your sphere of influence already around you, even that's not necessarily even on Instagram yet. And then let's even talk about how you can own some of this and nurture people beyond just an Instagram post. So, helping them set up their newsletters and really providing value with that, where it's just not like, I have a new blog post, like where people really look forward to them showing up in their inbox. But then also building something for the long term that they're going to feel excited continuously doing. That's a big thing. And also recognizing that it might shift, kind of tapping back into what we were just talking about, that giving them room to honor that, like, I'm not that person anymore, and now I'm shifting into this. So yeah, what the biggest myth is that they get so caught up on like this quantity, and I've been there. That's how actually I started. I was like, I need all these followers so I could get that swipe up, and I could get brands, more followers, brands are gonna pay me more, blah blah. Like, it was all numbers. And damn, I just had like an aha moment. That's like how I approached entrepreneurship. Like, I gotta hit 7 figures. Like, it was always these numbers thing. Right. Yeah. And just making them recognize, like, there's so much, like, the numbers, granted, they're real. They don't lie. Data is very helpful, and having goals, I think, is important, but those goals don't have to necessarily be quantified. Ooh, sorry. Okay. Those goals don't necessarily have to be quantity or quantifiable. I don't know if that's word, quantable. I'm messing up my words today, but they don't have to be a number. They could be, they could be a feeling. And to me, I'm quality over quantity any day. So a lot of it is tearing down, again, this narrative, like, I got to have all these numbers, and recognizing, there's so much more there than that. Like, you could actually accomplish so much more with less. So
nice. What about pitching? I know you also share about pitching, and sometimes it's a hit or miss for people, but how was your approach to start doing that?
Honestly, it's very similar to even with, starting out on social media, just putting yourself out there and not being afraid to knock on a big brand store and say, like, hey. The biggest thing, and honestly, this is all what my course is about, and so I have no problem sharing it, but you're not going to have the whole framework. But honestly, it's about leading from value. Like, with pitching, it's the same thing, and you have to think, what's in it for the brand? Like, what am I putting on the table where it's an easy yes, not a handout. Like, hey, just come pay me. You want me. You know what I mean? Yeah. And recognizing, like, you've got to build a relationship, you've got to nurture it. And again, just not being afraid to shoot your shot. Like, it's almost like, asking someone out, in a sense. And so when you ask someone out, you don't just hit them with a kiss right away. It's like, yes. Hey, I'm feeling you. You feeling me? And I think I'm bringing something to the table. You know what I mean? So I always, a lot of people just think, oh, I'm not good enough. They think that, I'm not big enough, or I'm not ready. When I do this, then I'll pitch. And it's usually you're ready. You're already ready. You already have something to offer. You already have value. It's just knowing how to articulate that with confidence, and then also recognizing you're going to get a lot of no's before you get those yeses. But those yeses honestly become, at least for me, those became like anchors. Like, oh crap, let's keep going. Let's send more pitches. Like, oh nope, that's cool. Nope, you liked me. Like, let's do this. Yeah. Let's talk. And so, and just for me, learning how to pitch, I learned how to sell. Like, I used to be like, oh, I hate sales. Nope, I'm not a salesperson. But I recognized, as I started putting myself out there, I learned how to sell. And so a byproduct, in my opinion, from pitching and putting yourself out there is that you learn how to sell, but you sell with heart. It's not like this, like, salesy, like, yeah, it's like that cringy.
Like the infomercials. Does this happen to you?
Yeah, like, yeah, that whole thing. Oh gosh, yeah. So yeah, I think pitching, honestly, is very reflective of just, putting yourself out there, but then also having confidence. That confidence piece, I think, is important, and that can build over time. that you have something of value to provide this brand or this entity that you might want to collaborate with, So
Thank you for so many wonderful tips. I want to
you're
ask you one last
welcome.
question.
Yeah.
How do you make sure, like before you reach out to your brand, how do you make sure that it's aligned to you? Because just like dating, not everyone is a suitor. It might seem like a good idea,
Yes.
but for you personally, what are your requirements?
For me, it always goes back to how this can serve my audience, for me personally. But you can also have that barometer as well. How is this going to serve my life? Or, how is this going to, does this make sense? And if it's not an easy yes, usually it's probably a no. I'm just being honest. This is the whole trust yourself thing, that whole exercise, bringing it full circle. And so for like, I'm now thankfully at a point, I don't pitch very often. I used to pitch. I pitch in a whole different way. I usually don't pitch a lot of my brand collaborations anymore, full transparency, because that's just the place that I like to operate from. I have a brand manager now who handles all of that for me, but I know what she's doing because I've done it myself. So by the way, if you outsource something, I do recommend you try it for a little bit before you hand it off so you understand some of it. So there's a lesson there. But I have a lot of brands approach me now, and her and I are in a great place. She knows what's aligned and what's not. But so every so often she'll actually, you interested in this? I'm like, this is not aligned. Like it's not there. Like this doesn't serve me. This doesn't serve my audience. It's not aligned. And there was a point in time where I would just say yes to everything for the money. And again, even from this whole conversation, if it's about the numbers and the money, it probably is not genuine and authentic and true. It has to be bigger than that. So I now partner with brands, again, that I know that's going to serve my audience and that my audience will find interesting or know that their service would be helpful to them, whether it's food or, skincare, hair care, whatever it might be. It has to be, how does this serve my audience? And I got to like it too. Like I can't I'm not going to just put out something that I have no clue about. So, give me some time to try it. No, I'm not just going to do that. Like, that's just not, that's not it. Then if I don't believe in their intentions behind what they're trying to share or their service or their message, it's an easy no. Like, no, thank you, but no thanks. So, I've ended partnerships and what I realize also is, while I've said no to this money, I've said yes to so many other possibilities. And so being confident in that this still opens me up to receive so many other things and to do other things.
Yes. Oh, thank you for your wisdom. I could ask about you all day, but I'm conscious of your time.
Thank you.
I'm excited to ask you some rapid fire questions.
Yeah, let's do it.
What's the best compliment you've ever received?
Oh, that I am authentic, because sometimes I get so in my head, like, again, from that corporate world, if that makes sense. So to be told that, to be seen fully, if that makes sense, like, I just feel like you're so real. And I'm like, oh, wow. And that is just confirmation that I'm operating, in fully in myself, if that makes sense. So that's probably the best compliment. And I try to live by that, if that makes sense. Like I try to, my love language is words of affirmation. So it's just like, how can I continue to live and lead that way? So, and honestly, being scared about something tends to land me there each time. Does that make sense?
Yes. And such a great example of alignment, like what you just shared about Instagram and brands being aligned. That is an example of the feminine and masculine energy kind of being lived together. Boundaries when something doesn't work, and then also like allowing things to happen. You summed it all up.
Hey girl, but you did it too. Thank you.
A book that's changed your life.
Ooh, We Should All Be Millionaires by Rachel Rodgers. Damn, she
It's
had
on
me
my
like,
list.
girl, changed my life. And as a woman of color, it's just very, Rachel's amazing. And she's like she actually has like a very calm, even tone. I listened to the audiobook, but she is like, no, we all need to get this. Like, we all need to do this. And I'm gonna listen to it again. I've actually listened to a few chapters here and there again, but and it just came out this year. But I'm getting chills thinking about it. She is like, I don't even want to call it a hype woman, but she's just like, get off your ass. Let's do this. Let's go. We need to do this, not just for you, but for everybody. And she just has so many profound nuggets in it that would just make you want to live your life fully. So I love it.
It's moving up my list now, my ever-growing list.
Yeah, listen to it. Right.
What does coming home to yourself mean to you?
You know, it's definitely a feeling of like ease and peace, but excitement, like that fun energy. Fun can be fleety though. So I lean on peace and ease, like where it's just flowing. So home for me, coming into a place of home is coming to a place of flow. And that pops up in a lot of different places in my life. So whether having a moment playing with Lucky, whether having a moment joking around with my husband, or even when I'm working on creating content or stuff for my clients where I'm just like in it and I look up and I'm like, oh crap, it's 2 a.m. and I've just been like pouring into it. Home to me feels like flow, where it's just like I lose track of the time and it just feels so damn good, like butter.
Yeah. What would you like more of?
More flow, honestly. I'm practicing ways to get into that without it necessarily always being about pleasure. I feel like I need to tap into how do I find flow in the mundane, if that makes sense, and the peace in the mundane, and not always looking for moments of pleasure. Going down a whole other rabbit hole at this point. So, yeah, but I want more flow in my life, and flow doesn't always need to be beautiful and pretty, So learning that and trying to practice that.
Advice for younger self or words, anything?
You don't have to have it all figured out. Yeah. I was such a know-it-all when I was younger. Like I needed to grow up and have it all together, but you don't have to have it all figured out, and play more. Yeah. Play and make mistakes.
Well, I also want to share some of your programs and offerings because I'm sure a lot of people listening will want to work with you or want to know more about you.
Yeah.
What are you currently offering?
Yeah, so right now I am taking on one-on-one clients. I have a number of ways to work together, but from coffee chats to working one-on-one for a number of months, so we can, if you're really struggling with social media, that's really my jam, and I love helping individuals do that, especially if you're looking to create a strategy with intention and with heart. And so yes, if you're needing help with like having that all laid out and just can't seem to do it on your own, there's nothing wrong with that. Getting help can actually be a huge strength. And I help individuals create what I call a social media roadmap. This is my project manager hat. And we basically project plan your social media strategy where it's aligned to who you really are and the value you want to provide to your audience. That's like for a whole social media strategy, including blogging, podcasts, YouTube, or whatever, and other platforms. But say you just want to start with Instagram, like let's just start here and then grow. I actually do the same thing, and I'm offering Instagram makeovers. It's my VIP offer. So if you're just looking to do that for just Instagram, I love to help you. And honestly, it's a great way to, you can use a lot of the practices that we build within the Instagram makeover to attribute to other platforms. But with that, I help people with creating a personalized content calendar. I provide them personalized prompts to use. So like you literally have like a whole toolkit to move forward on your whole Instagram strategy. And I also provide some support during that time to help you implement so that it feels aligned and right on point. So, yeah.
And I'm sure you'll be doing some hard work along the side. Mallory is really good at holding space.
Thank you. You know, honestly, I find that's a big part of this work. And I'm full transparency. I'm feeling really called to step more into that. I think again, social media is a great tool, but I really feel in this place where I need to dip further into the hard work. So stay tuned for some things like that. I'm still figuring that piece out, what that looks like.
Well, where can we find you? Where can we get the latest deets from you?
Yeah, lifebymj.com, as well on Instagram, Twitter, all the places, Pinterest. I've got Life by MJ on deck, and you can follow me anywhere. TikTok, all the things. Primarily Instagram, my website though, is where you can find me.
Oh, amazing. I'll also add it in the show notes so people can just click through. Thank you so much for sharing your story, your passion, and amazing wisdom to help us manage social media and life better.
Thank you. I really, really appreciate you just, sharing your space and, sharing your audience. So I really appreciate it. Thank you. I hope this was of value to someone today.
I'm sure it was. Thank you, Mallory.
No problem.
Thank you so much for listening to the Whole and Unleashed podcast. What was your takeaway from today's conversation? Let me know in the comments or review. I would love to hear from you. Subscribe to get new episodes each week and visit wholeandunleashed.com for more information.